Hello everyone, it's Myung-Kul-jan. Today I am going to read S6 6064, The War of the Worlds. Chapter 10. Getting along with Henry became harder and harder. I couldn't stand him. He acted like a spoiled child. He ate too much. I warned him that we would soon run out of food, but he kept doing it. I would get very angry. I even hit Henry. He cried and hit me back. More huge Martian machines arrived. We saw them from a crack in the wall. We felt terribly scared, but we still peeped through the hole from time to time. The machines moved quickly. The real Martians moved slowly. Could these slow creatures really be the live ones? I had to wonder. One day I heard human voices. I looked outside, but saw no one. Then I saw a machine grab something from a cage. It was a man. The machine took him away. I heard him scream. What would happen to him? I found out soon enough. The Martians were using a thin pipe to take blood from the live man. They piped his blood into themselves. They kept on until all his blood was gone. Would the Martians use me that way too? I knew Henry and I had to escape. I tried to dig a way out for us, but digging made too much noise. I had to stop. If only we could get out the door, but the Martians would see us. Henry was no help. The next day I found him drinking wine. I grabbed it from him, then I divided all the food into 10 parts. The way it would last us 10 days. I would not let Henry eat any more that day. He kept trying to steal more. He cried like a child. He was hungry, but I kept him from the food. I tried everything with Henry. I threatened, talked sweetly to him. I even bribed him with the last bit of wine, but he kept stealing food. And he kept crying. I knew he had lost his mind. Then he began to talk loudly. I begged him to stop. He threatened to yell. That would bring a Martian on us. That terrified me. But he did not yell. He just kept talking loud and crying. Be still, I begged. I've been still too long, Henry shouted. Shut up, I whispered. No, he said, I must go. I tried to grab him, but he slipped through the small opening in the door. He walked straight up to a Martian machine. The machine grabbed him. I couldn't watch anymore. I turned away. Just then I saw a tentacle. It was coming through the crack in the wall. Then came another. I kept still, too terrified to move. At last I crawled to the cellar. Had the Martian seen me? What was it doing now? I could hear it moving, very, very slowly, but I stayed put. Hiding in a coal bin, I listened. I heard the Martian moving around. At last he was at the cellar door. I held the lock. Then the door opened. The Martians understood doors. I dared not breathe. The Martian moved slowly about the cellar. I could see a tentacle touching things. It looked like an elephant's trunk. Once it touched the heel of my boot, I almost screamed. I bit my hand instead. Click! The Martian grabbed something. I thought it had me, but I think it took a lump of coal. The Martian seemed to go out of the cellar again. I heard it shut the door. Then all was quiet. Had it gone? At last I decided that it had, but I did not dare move. I hid in the cellar all that day. I did not even go out for a drink of water. I stayed right where I was until the next day. Hunger finally forced me to leave the cellar, but every scrap of food was gone. The Martians must have taken it. I don't know why. Martians don't eat food. I was so thirsty I tried the rainwater pump. I drank the dirty water. For the next 2 days, I ate nothing. I fell asleep and walked. My dreams were of food or Henry's death. I felt hopeless. No sounds came from the pit. Had I become deaf? I was too weak to look out the peephole. 3 more days passed without a sound from the Martians. Some of the red weed was growing through the peephole. I overcame my fear and pushed it aside and looked. There was nothing in the pit but red weed. No Martians. No machine. My chance to escape had come. I squeezed through the door. All around were skeletons and a few crows, smashed houses, and the red weeds. That was all. I climbed out of the pit, away from the place that had been my prison. Ah, oh, the fresh air seemed so sweet. Chapter 11. First, I needed food. I saw a green patch of garden. No red weed grew over it, but to reach it, I had to walk through the red weed. In places, it reached to my neck, then I had to climb a wall. But the trip was worth it. I found onions and carrots. I was ready to start on my way. As I walked, I found mushrooms and water. Not much for a very hungry man. Wherever there was water, the red weed grew. I tried to eat some, but it tasted terrible. I walked all that day. I saw no human beings and no Martians, only two hungry looking dogs. Nothing else living. Was the human race gone forever? Was I the last man on earth? That night I slept in a real bed in an empty inn. First, I looked for food. I found an old sandwich, too rotten to eat, but 2 cans of pineapple were good. I lay awake, worrying most of the night. Where were the Martians? Would they find me? Was my wife alive? I did not have a hint about any of it. The morning was sunny. I started on my way again. Where to? Maybe Leatherhead. My wife would have run from there, but I might learn where she had gone. I walked and walked, feeling lonely. Then I saw a man holding a dagger. He looked as dirty as I did. As dirty as I did. His face was cut. Black hair fell over his eyes. Stop, he cried. Where do you come from? I told him my story. There's no food here, he said. This is my country. There's only food for one. I'm on my way to Leatherhead. Don't worry, I said. It's you, he said. The man from walking and smiled. You are the soldier who came into my garden, I cried. We ate the lucky ones, he said. We shook hands. He invited me to a proper meal. He was living in a big house on a hill. It was stocked with good food and wine. We even smoked cigars and played cards. Strange as that may seem. Perhaps we both needed to escape from the horror of our lives, but of course the horror returned. Have you seen any Martians? I asked. They have gone away to London, he said, but been gone for 5 days now. Last I saw them with a flying machine. They are learning to fly? Fly? I cried. Yes, fly. Then they will fly around the world, said I. Killing and burning, the human race is done for. We are bit. The soldier agreed. It's all over. They haven't begun on us yet. These Martians are getting things ready. Then the rest of their kind will come. Yes, I said, I'm afraid you're right. We are the ones who have escaped, said the soldier. We must get ready. What can we do? I asked. We must hide for now, underground, in railroad tunnels, trains, cellars, said he, and we must form a band. Only strong men and women. No weak or lazy ones allowed, he went on. We must make safe places deep underground, get all the science books we can, learn more, watch the Martians, spy on them, but we must leave them alone. We must show them we mean no harm. They will forget about us. The soldier took my arm. We will learn all that the Martians know. Then one day people will be inside the machine, not Martians. We'll have the heat ray, and the human race will come back to its own. That all sounded good, but it would never happen. I knew this soldier was a dreamer. I would go on to London and learn what was happening. Chapter 12. After I left the soldier, I went into London. Most of the city looked like it did on a Sunday. The shops were closed, houses were locked up, the streets were still. When I got deep into London, I heard sad howling. Ula, ula, ula. The sound of the first Martian. Ula, ula, ula. I heard it down every street. It came out from between the tall buildings. It did not stop. Soon it got to be too much for me. I felt tired and hungry. I was very lonely. I broke into an empty inn. I found food and wine. Then I slept on a couch. I awoke to the sound of the same howling. Ula, ula, ula. I left the inn and walked to a park. There I saw a huge Martian machine. It was turned on its side, not moving. Its tentacles were bent and twisted. The howling came from inside the giant. Ula, ula, ula. No longer did the machine frighten me. So I did not hide. I kept going. I passed the zoo. There I saw another huge Martian machine. It too was just standing still, but it made not a sound. Here and there I saw the red weed was starting to turn brown. All at once the sad howling stopped. The air was silent. Now I felt frightened. London was a ghost city and I was alone in it. Then I saw Yet another Martian machine, and as I got nearer, I saw a bird flying around its head. I knew what this meant. I began to run toward the monster. Yes, the birds were picking at a dead Martian inside the machine. I looked around me. I was standing in one of the Martian pits. I saw more machines lying on the ground, at least 50. Around them were the real Martians. All were dead. Machines glittered in the morning sunshine, harmless giants. I did not learn until later what had killed the Martians. Earth's germs, bacteria. Germs were killing the red wheat as well. There are no germs on Mars, so Martians cannot fight germs as our bodies can. Howling I heard was Martians as they were dying. It was all over. The human race was saved. I began weeping and thanking God. I thought then of my wife. Maybe we'd be together again after all. Maybe life would go on. Chapter 13. Now comes the strangest thing in my story. I remember nothing of the next 3 days. Later, I learned that I was not the only man to see the Martians dying. Others had sent out the word on the night before. Church bells were ringing. All over England, the whole world was full of joy. The food and help were on the way from many countries. But I was in a daze, wondering, weeping. One day I found myself in a house. Some kind people had taken care of me. When I was well again, these people told me about Leatherhead. It had been burned by the heat ray. Nothing of the town or its people was left. I was a sad, lonely man. I wanted to go to my old home, even if I would have no wife there. So I kissed my new friends goodbye. London was coming back to life. People were coming home. Some looked happy, some looked grim. Every other person was wearing rags. The French had sent bread. Churches were handing it out. Some shops were even open. Free trains were taking people to their homes, so I got on one. I sat alone with folded arms. Ruined fields and villages flowed past the window. I got off at walking and walked to my house. I went in feeling some hope, but the house was empty. Curtains flapped at the open window. The soldier and I had left the window open. No one had shut it. I looked around. All was as I had left it, but now it felt sad and lonely. Then I heard a voice I knew. It's no use, it said. The house is empty. No one has been here. I was startled. I turned and looked out the open window, and there were my wife and her cousin. I came, cried my wife. I knew. Chapter 14. I wish I could teach my readers more about the Martians, but I'm not an expert. Will the Martians ever come back? No one knows. But we'd be ready just in case. Then we could destroy any spaceship that landed right away. But some scientists have another idea. They think the Martians have landed on the planet Venus. They have seen lights moving from Mars to Venus. Scientists may be right, who knows? We have learned a lot from what happened here. First, we used to think only Earth had life. Now we know better. Second, if the Martians can reach Venus, why can't we? I have a picture in my mind, a wonderful picture. I see the people of Earth spreading through space. They are landing on Venus, Mars, the moon. Of course, that is just a dream. The end.